Welcome back, guys, to Miles Edgeworth Ace Attorney Investigations, where last episode Turnabout Reminiscence began 7 years ago with a double murder in the courthouse, as after Mack Rell admitted to murder but claimed Byrne Faraday had asked him to do the deed as the real Yatagalasu, Edgeworth was brought in by Franziska Von Karma to take over the trial as prosecutor in Faraday's place. However, with both parties now having ended up dead, the original trial's kind of a bit kiboshed at this point, as we are now assisted by Franziska Von Karma and Gumshoe in investigating what has taken place here. Detective Bad, may I have a word with you? What is it? It appears that both a knife and a gun were used as murder weapons. Yeah, it does. That leads us to our first question of the investigation. Where did the men acquire the weapons? The gun was inside of Faraday's bag. It was a piece of evidence that was presented in the trial earlier today. It was used to kill the Cadopian Embassy staff member. But I never heard anything about the knife. Mr. Rell was being held by the police. There's no way he could have brought it in. Which means it's possible that Faraday had the knife on him from the start as well. Could it have been a piece of evidence that had yet to be presented? But then, why doesn't Detective Bad know about it? Wait. What if... It's possible that Mr. Faraday brought the knife in under the guise of prosecutorial evidence. He could have them brought it... He could have then brought it out and attacked Mr. Rell with it. Ah, yes, I got them, yeah. Maybe you've got a brain in there after all, kid. That's the second time you said that. Is he going to treat me like a child forever? It looks like Mr. Faraday attacked Mr. Rell first, who then counterattacked. That's the only logical conclusion you can draw from a scene like this. Not yet. I feel it's much too early to be drawing conclusions already. I must first find conclusive evidence so as to ensure the honour of the Von Karma name. Right, time to find some evidence then. I'm going to first look at this. It's Gumshoe with me, not Franziska. The window is open and... there's a fresh flowery scent in the air. The flower in the garden down there is so gross and ghastly. Do you think maybe you could try offering something useful for a change? Well, at least there's no way someone's escaped through the window, pal. I wouldn't wake up and smell the flowers after I fall from the third floor. Are you willfully ignoring the fact that there are also iron bars on the windows? No human can climb through these barred windows. The scent of flowers is in the air. The scent of flowers is just interesting, though. Yeah, I guess there's that too. Either way, no one can get through these windows, right? They thought of everything when they were designing this courthouse. Very nice. Bars everywhere. Whoa! What is it, Detective Gumshoe? My TV at home is so tiny compared to this one, pal. And perhaps you should purchase a more normal size television like this one. Normal size. Oh, let me see here. Wow, this thing is huge. Wow! Way too noisy. You're the noisy one, Scruffy. Don't touch it. You'll get your fingerprints all over it. But I didn't touch it. Preservation of the crime scene is the foundation of detective work. The foundation, huh? Sounds like something the rookie here needs to show up on. Not having a good day there, Gumshoe, are you? Detective Bad, do you have any thoughts on the case? Faraday and Rell. Looks like they killed each other to me. Although, there are a few things that just don't seem right. And what would they be? Why don't you try thinking on your own first before you bother me, boy? Now I've been downgraded to just boy. Okay, I'll try thinking by myself, God. Just asking. Pooling resources. Team. Some stuff in the bag, pal. I suppose this was Mr. Faraday's bag. It's probably the trial evidence I was supposed to collect from him. This is the evidence? Oh, I better not touch it. I'll leave prints on it. You just not pay attention to anything you do? Well, I can't look at the evidence then. There's some plastic bags stacked up on the table. There's a tea set too, but there doesn't seem to be any sign of a disturbance. Yeah, the table's all neat and tidy. Tea set and plastic bags on top of the table are completely undisturbed. Hinting again at not a lack of struggle. Definitely a lack of struggle. Maybe they were super quiet in their scuffle. After all, I didn't hear anything from out in the hallway, you know. Maybe the plastic bags scattered on the floor are throwing us off. There are some plastic bags on the floor. Look at this pot. This decorative plant's foliage is quite nice. It's actually soothing to be around it. Perhaps I should purchase one for my room. Maybe you will. Well, I guess we should actually look at the body, right? Why are there plastic bags scattered all around? Those bags are keeping evidence safe, pal. I know that much, detective. You're sure good at this stuff, aren't you, pal? Normally I'd be happy when someone compliments me, but when it's this guy... Anyway, could these plastic bags be evidence of a fight between the two men? But there's some neat and some not. Now, what else are we examining here? We can't examine the body by the look of it. Why are these plastic bags scattered all around? Yeah, okay, we ended up in the same thing. I want to look at the body, but because I clicked on the body last time, I decided to try and click on the bags. There we go. Looks like Mr. Faraday fell on top of Mr. Rell. At first glance, it seems like they must have killed each other. However, using logic, the only logical conclusion is... Aha! What was that outburst for? My detective's instinct just hit me real hard. It was Mr. Rell that fell first, see? You don't need a detective's instinct for that. It's common sense. But I suppose we won't know much more than that until after I examine the bodies. I won't rest until I've inspected every suspicious-looking nook and cranny. Well, first, why is one bag covered in blood and the rest not? Why are there plastic bags scattered all around? We've already talked about that. Those bags are keeping evidence safe, pal. We'll get the same dialogue in a different way. I know that much, detective. You're sure good at this stuff, aren't you, pal? Really? Same dialogue? Okay, we can get them up and down. I guess let's look at the knife. Looks like Mr. Rell died with a knife in his hand. There's some blood stuck on it. He must have used this as a weapon. Yep, no doubt about it. Was Mr. Faraday carrying this on his personage? Did he bring this as a piece of evidence for the trial? Or did he bring it with a very different intention in mind? I should jot some notes down about it. Right, so the knife's been added to our evidence list. The gun next then? Bodies after? Looks like Mr. Faraday died while holding the gun in his right hand. So he shot Mr. Rell and then fell on top of him while still gripping onto the gun. Oh, I guess that does seem kind of strange, huh? I mean, why would Mr. Faraday know how to fire a gun? It's not exactly rocket science, even I know how to pull the trigger. Don't forget about the safety. Although I doubt I'll ever need to use one. I hope I never have to fire a gun either, pal. But it sure does look cool to hold a gun in your hands. It appears that the police's screening procedures need a thorough review. Yeah, they really do. They really do. But still. Anyway, I should jot down some notes about the handgun in Mr. Faraday's hand. Well, less about this game, more about... But still. Handgun data has been jotted down in my organizer. Yeah, I've gun because it's cool. Disallowed from having gun. Mr. Faraday, how ironic it is for him to lose his life in a courthouse. Yeah, why did it have to be like this? I don't know what to say. I can't believe this happened while I was on watch, pal. Rather than beating yourself up, you should spend your time continuing the investigation. Didn't you become a detective in order to solve crimes? Yeah. Then get back to work. Find out about the cause of his murder. Right, I'm on it, pal. So Mr. Mack Rell, then. First he killed a Cotopian embassy staff member, then he was murdered himself. This guy wasn't exactly an angel, you know. Oh? What makes you say that? Well, he's been ordered into the precinct several times for theft and assault, pal. So yeah, he's definitely the type to have committed a murder or two. Well, he did admit to killing Mr. Dade Mann. Hey, good point, pal. I knew my detective intuition was telling me something. Detective's intuition? Yep. Do you know about it? It's a special feeling that all detectives... We don't have time for this conversation right now. Let's return to the investigation. Anything else weird going on here? It's definitely easier to look at this screen, because the small screen, because it's at least coloured up. Okay, there's something wrong here because the exam's happening. What about the other guy's hand? His hand is all black down here, see? I wonder what it could be. If you look closely, this blotching pattern resembles an ink stain. Okay. It's a bit random, isn't it? Ah, an ink stain? Yes, I usually get ink on my own hand when I use my feather pen. A feather pen? I've never seen one before. Sure you're just making it up, pal? Nope, that's it for that. Mr. Rell's cause of death was from being shot, correct? That's what we think, but it's hard to tell with him lying face down. Death is bad enough, but it's truly lamentable that someone would try to hide the truth. Are you sure they were trying to hide something? I can't confirm Mr. Rell's cause of death with his body positioned like that. Detective Bad, I'd like to examine the bodies in further detail if possible. What's this? You're not able to form a theory with them in the way they are? I believe an examination of the bodies is vital to finding the perfect evidence, don't you? I suppose you do have a point. Well, hurry up and get on with it. Labby. Yes, sir. You've taken enough photos of the scene, sir. And there you have it. Do you not approve? Of course not. What? Investigation of a crime scene is the work of a detective, so don't touch a thing. Hey, big fella, turn over the bodies for me, will you? Okay. Please forgive me, Mr. Faraday, sir. Gumshoe, do not get emotionally involved. Remember, you're a detective. Yes, sir. Understood, sir. I won't rest until I've inspected every suspicious-looking nook and cranny. Right, he's got a pen in his pocket, which could be where the ink stain came from. I mean, how was this so fatal? I'm not saying, you know, a stab of the wound like that couldn't be fatal. It couldn't, like, puncture arteries, etc. He seems to have died very fast and not bled very much. Same with this guy. Like... Wait, the gunshot wasn't even a through and through, right? There was no blood stain on the back. The lack of blood is incredibly disturbing right now. Right, well, let's examine the pen first. There's something in his breast pocket. It's a fountain pen. The fountain pen in Miss Faraday's pocket has an especially nice nib. We need to know that. Hey, you know, always keep a pencil by my ear. It's because Detective Bad is always telling me. You should always write your name on everything you own. Yes, somehow you do strike me as quite a forgetful individual. There's a knife wound in his chest here, see? I wonder if the wound matches the knife Mr. Rell is holding. Labby. Yes, sir. Verified now, sir. Make it quick. From the look of things, one could deduce that the knife Mr. Rell is holding is what killed Mr. Faraday. Like, but the lack of blood. What was the depth of the stab wound? I'm really confused with this kind of stuff. Looks like Mr. Faraday was stabbed with this knife that Mr. Rell is holding. Youch! What's wrong, detective? My stomach started to hurt from just thinking about being stabbed. Just keep your mind on the case, alright? Alright, then you've got his wound. Shot on the chest. Takes some guts to fire a gun in a courthouse. I mean, I've been a detective for a whole week and I still haven't fired a single round yet. There aren't any burn marks on his clothes. That must mean... Wait, burn marks? A round grows very hot as it is discharged from a firearm. Therefore, burn marks are usually left when a shot is fired from point-blank range. Ergo, Mr. Rell must have been shot from at least a yard or two away. Right, handgun data has been updated. Sure to know a bunch of neat stuff your age, pal. Apparently, this detective has as much common knowledge as your everyday marsupial. Let us now try to understand how the two men died. First, Mr. Faraday took the gun and the knife out from today's trial evidence. Then he aimed the gun at Mr. Rell and fired. However, Mr. Rell managed to grab the knife and counter Mr. Faraday while being shot. And then the two men fell together where they stood. That is my theory in any case. What a crazy way to go! Still, something about that explanation just doesn't seem right. I mean, the distance, the closing of the gap, how did the guy get a gun without a scuffle to go on? It's like, all kinds of absolutely wrong. I believe I now have a firmer grasp on what happened here. I guess it's time to press my head. Because I've got a lot of these. So the two obvious ones to link out, well, I guess these two, quite possibly, but ink stain and fountain pen in pocket seem like a pretty good link first of all. That splotch on Mr. Faraday's hand. I wonder if it might be the ink from his fountain pen. Oh, that's the lab guy. Detective Gumshoe, I confirm that the substance on Mr. Faraday's hand is the ink from his fountain pen. I see. Good work. You know, I always want to say that, even if it was just one time in my life. If Mr. Faraday wrote with his fountain pen in his left hand, I think it's fair to assume he was left-handed. It appears that Mr. Faraday's pen is very important to our case as well. Okay, if you say so, pal. Okay then. Mr. Faraday's fountain pen is jotted down. Let's get the other two. The evidence bags, why on the floor? Why is one covered in blood? There's a very tidy pile of plastic bags on the table, and yet a portion of them wound up scattered on the floor as well. It's not likely that the ones on the floor were knocked over during a scrabble, in which case, might there not be another explanation as to how they got there? Another reason? I believe it's possible that the blood on the outside of the bag is related somehow. Please get that blood away from me, pal! Detective Gumshoe, whose blood is on this bag? Hold on. Let me ask the lab guy. Alright, please hurry. Where'd you get a load of this, pal? It's Mr. Faraday's! Oh, and the technician said they didn't find anything else on or in the bag either. It would appear that this bag is a very important piece of evidence. Okay, if you say so, I'll leave it in your hands, pal. Surely you should be storing it and carrying it around with us. I don't know. Leave it in your hands. I guess it's less trustworthy, but still. I guess there's not much left to investigate, huh? They really did kill each other. No, we can't conclude that quite yet. There's still something I find very peculiar here. The theory that they simply killed one another is too simplistic in this case. In fact, there is actually a contradiction that shows there is another possibility. No way, pal. Really? I suppose I would just have to show you the conflict in this crime scene. I would rest until I've inspected every suspicious looking nook and cranny. Right then. The conflict, if I had to say, is this. Let me just go to the organizer just to make sure. Fountain pen used by the left-handed Faraday. Looks like it has a quality nib. Gun in the right hand. Why is the gun in the right hand? Someone who wouldn't know that might place the gun in the hand, but he wouldn't use his gun in the hand. Requires a certain amount of aim. Is this spot somehow connected to any of the evidence I hold? Indeed! And now we come face to face with the contradiction I spoke of, and it is this. Mr. Faraday used his left hand to write with his fountain pen. Ergo, he is left-handed. And yet, the handgun is in his right hand. Don't you find it odd that the left-handed Mr. Faraday would hold the gun in his right hand? That, ladies and gentlemen, is the great contradiction haunting this crime scene. Hey, you're right, pal. That does seem kind of strange. But how could something like that happen? The facts add up to one conclusion and one alone. Someone else put the gun in Mr. Faraday's hand after he died. Someone else? Plastic bags scattered on the floor and a gun in the wrong hand. I sense the presence of a shadowy figure behind this case. A person of vile intent who is serious about keeping the truth from us. Investigation complete. What's next then? Here's the autopsy report. You got a fax machine in your jacket or something? It is probable that Mr. Rell survived for a short time after he was shot. However, Mr. Faraday died instantaneously from his stabbing. Interesting. Yeah, it really is. Especially because the way they're arranged. Looks like we now know everything we need to know about this case. Are you sure we know everything? Of course. The incident began with Mr. Faraday attempting to get his revenge. The prosecutor went to a raid from being accused and tried to kill the defendant. But the defendant fought back and they ended up killing each other. God, you went for the simple, didn't you? It's all very clear and simple. There is absolutely no margin for doubt. Do you really believe that to be the truth? Ha! Are you saying that just because I figured out the truth before you? That you don't want to believe it's true? It's alright. If you disagree with my argument, then prove me wrong. What if there are any contradictions to be found, that is? don't worry. I will. Argument? Another sibling spat. What happened? Mr. Faraday's death was instantaneous while Mr. Rell survived for a short time. From this, it is obvious that Mr. Faraday died after he shot Mr. Rell. And Mr. Rell, while on the brink of death, stole Mr. Faraday's knife and stabbed him. Those are the facts of this case. I mean, weren't they in an, order? Mr. Faraday's death was instantaneous, therefore he must have attacked first. Proving that logic to be false is probably the fastest way to show that she's wrong. In that case, I should first look for any holes in her theory. Games told me to press, not to present. Mr. Faraday's death was instantaneous while Mr. Rell survived for a short time. Hold it! Do you truly believe that Mr. Faraday died instantaneously? I have the murder report right here. Mr. Faraday died instantaneously of shock due to being stabbed in the chest. There you see, it's been documented clear as day. Ah! From this, it is obvious that Mr. Faraday died after he shot Mr. Rell. Hold it! Mr. Faraday shot Mr. Rell before he died. Do you have any basis for that statement? Your foolishness has no end, does it? Now, I hate to repeat myself, however, Mr. Faraday died instantaneously. That's all the basis I need. Alright, so if Mr. Faraday died instantaneously, then he must have attacked Mr. Rell before being stabbed. You're finally beginning to catch on, I see. And Mr. Rell, while on the brink of death, stole Mr. Faraday's knife and stabbed him. Hold it! So you believe that the dying Mr. Rell stole the knife from Mr. Faraday? Mr. Rell became desperate as he did not want to die. Human beings can do amazing things when they are put to the test. So the two men struggled. And in the end, Mr. Rell was able to grab the knife and stab Mr. Faraday. The messy condition of this room is a testament to their struggle. Messy? Yes, my logic is perfectly sound. Can you really say that it's perfect? What are you insinuating? Nothing. However, I can't let what you said slide by without further inquiry. Do I actually have a picture? Yeah, there we go. One must be clear and precise. So if you could append that statement to your testimony. Fine. Because when we get an appended statement to a testimony, it's usually the one we present to. They struggled and Mr. Rell used the last of his strength to counterattack Mr. Faraday. So, what are we doing here? Let's press this as well, actually. About this statement. Mr. Rell used all of his remaining strength to take the knife and defend himself. One can easily see that they had a violent struggle. Of course, it's nothing compared to what my riding crop can do. How does one compare the damage your crop can do with the state of this room? Furthermore, all the plastic bags on the floor in this room were scattered there due to the fight. Is there anything else that I can explain for you? No, that will be fine. Those are the facts of this case. That seems kind of useless to me, and that also seems like the end. So I'm doing something here. So what am I presenting? Because, literally, like, it's to this statement, not the other ones. Like, this one, I feel like presenting the fact that Faraday fell on top of the guy. It just seems a bit weird if one died instantaneously. The other one just went, have a quick lie down while you'll stab you. I've got to make sure I go down before you so you can land on me, you know. It's all a bit, that's all a bit random. Very, very random. But that's an appended statement, which usually means the one we present to, as is the way of the series. So, they struggled. Mr. Rell used the last of his strength to counterattack Mr. Faraday. So we're more about the struggle side of things. Now, if someone was shot in that room, was in hall on guard duty, other than the gunshot, didn't hear a sign of a struggle. So he heard the gunshot, but he didn't hear the guy, like, shout back or go, or rush the guy to steal the knife from him and then stab the guy who died instantaneously when it really didn't look like he should, but he did, obviously. It's all a bit wrong. He would have heard stuff. So it's probably that because it's about the struggle. Objection! If the two men were fighting, their struggle would have surely caused quite a bit of noise. However, Detective Gumshoe testified that he heard absolutely nothing. You place too much faith in that detective's testimony, you know.
But for the sake of argument, let's say there wasn't a fight. How then did Mr. Rell get his hands on the knife?
Mr. Faraday's bag was sitting right here in lobby number 2. It is not hard to imagine that perhaps Mr. Rell saw a chance and took it out at some point.
So, what you're saying is this. Mr. Rell took a chance when he saw the opportunity and took the knife from the bag. And then Mr. Faraday shot Mr. Rell after being stabbed.
Is there something strange in Franziska's statement just now? I didn't catch it, but... I mean, we'll roll with it. Oops, I should have been paying more attention. Wait, something doesn't add up.
Oh, really?
It's simply not possible for Mr. Faraday to have shot Mr. Rell after being stabbed. Oh, he said it that way around, yeah. Because we agreed that he was dead. Didn't we all agree that he's dead? Died instantly. Approximately 4 p.m. discovered immediately after gunshot was heard. Time of death. Faraday died of a knife stab to the chest. The shock from the stabbing caused instantaneous death. Shock. He got by shock. Rell had a bullet wound to the chest. There was no gunpowder burn on his clothes, suggesting he was shot from a few yards away. It's possible he was alive for a short while after being shot. He died instantaneously, so the statement is wrong because of that. Why did we just back on that? Because that just seems weird to me, which is probably why I missed it. According to the coroner's report, Mr. Faraday died instantaneously, meaning that he died immediately upon being stabbed by the knife. Why is Franziska so flip-floppy? Ergo, he could not possibly have fired the gun after that. I guess she's just a child.
Oh, you got me.
But of course.
Well then, if the report is correct, then there is only one correct explanation. If we suppose that Mr. Rell attacked first, then Mr. Faraday, who died instantaneously, would have been unable to kill Mr. Rell. Therefore, Mr. Rell must have stabbed Mr. Faraday after he was shot. Then they both died. That is the only explanation that makes logical sense.
Negating your opponent's ideas in order to prove your own theory. I see you've been studying, Franziska.
I just wanted to explain it to you as simply as possible. Before you foolishly propose a foolish theory that only a foolish fool like you could.
How naive of you to believe that only your opinions are valid, and still expect to discover the truth that the crime scene offers you. Franziska, you've still got a ways to go.
What are you talking about? Are you saying there's a flaw in my logic?
Mr. Faraday died instantly. And the fact that he did is what gives rise to the contradiction in the scene. Oh, finally! The contradiction here in the crime scene is... Thank you, the order the body fell. It's the middle option too. Let me get this straight. What you are arguing is this. Mr. Faraday took the gun from his evidence bag and shot Mr. Rell. Then the wounded Mr. Rell found an opportunity to take the knife and strike back. Upon being stabbed, Mr. Faraday died on the spot and Mr. Rell died thereafter. If that's the case, then how do you explain this? Take a good look at the order in which their bodies are piled.
No!
Mr. Faraday's body is lying on top of Mr. Rell's. Therefore, Mr. Rell must have died before Mr. Faraday. It takes so long to get to some very obvious stuff sometimes, doesn't it?
Impossible!
Yes, I agree that it seems strange no matter what angle you approach it from. Which means that the real mystery behind this crime scene that we must solve is...
No, not so fast, Miles Edgeworth.
What now?
I simply think that you ought to think a bit more outside the box. And that it's even clearer now that the incident started with Mr. Faraday's murderous intent.
She sure bounced back quickly. An explanation won't be enough this time. It's going to take some very decisive evidence to prove her wrong. So we're going into another argument. What happened part 2? But considering the episode is very near its end in terms of our usual length, I guess it's best to end it here and continue with our next argument next time, because I can't believe they didn't get to that really obvious thing beforehand. That's the confusing part about Phoenix Wright sometimes, and I know we've said it a billion times before. The most obvious blatantly staring in the face thing doesn't get brought up until way later, and that makes the rest of the evidence really confusing, because you're like, can we bring this up now? Can we bring you're focused on it just a bit, and then like you have to do all the other stuff, and you're just like, what? No, look at that, the really obvious thing. Can you let me do it? Well, what is Franziska's argument? What is
her next what happened scenario? Let's find out next time on Miles Edgeworth, Ace Attorney Investigations. I'll see you guys then. Bye-bye.